What if you didn't have to struggle when getting up from a chair? Well, you don't need to accept this as your story for the rest of your life. Because right now, I'm gonna show you how to build the strength and use the correct form that you need to stand up pain-free again. Now, the reason why most people can't stand up from a chair pain-free is because you're focusing on the wrong areas of your body. In fact, what most people focus on when they go to stand up from a chair is this. They focus on their feet and on their head. Their feet to push into the ground so that it lifts their head up like this. And when you focus on those two areas of your body, you end up using the muscles about sternum and above, and the muscles about mid-thigh and below. And frankly, these muscles aren't very strong, forcing you to make 5 common mistakes. What are these 5 mistakes? Well, let me show you. Narrow stance, knees forward, rounded back, weight on toes, head to sky. And when you make all 5 of these mistakes, oh man, it requires a lot of flexibility and strength, and oftentimes people are just moving so poorly that your chances of getting injured are really, really high. So don't make these 5 mistakes when standing up from a chair, and instead do this. Rather than focusing on your feet and on your head, and really using the small muscles that are next to your feet and next to your head and shoulders, we want to focus on using the center of the body. So from your rib cage to the tops of your thighs, really emphasizing hip extension. So here's the 5 ways to fix those 5 mistakes so you can stand up from a chair pain-free again. First, start with a wide stance, slightly outside of hip width or even wider if it feels more comfortable, and turn your toes out. When you do this, it's gonna help open up the hips and allow you to use the hips to stand up rather than emphasizing your knees and your upper back. Second, push your knees out the entire time. When we drive our knees out like this, we strengthen the hip external rotators, which really help support and strengthen and keep the knee joint safe. Those muscles are on the outsides of your hips, and when those muscles are strong, your entire lower body is strong. Third, bow forward, bringing your belly between your thighs like this, but make sure you keep a flat back the whole time. You should come as far forward as you can without rounding your upper or your lower back until you feel a little bit of tension in your hamstrings and your glutes. Fourth, drive your heels down into the ground before you start to stand up. This is gonna help activate your hamstrings and your glutes and take the pressure off of your knees. And fifth, with your belly between your thighs, your heels pressed down, a wide stance, and your knees pushed out, you can either place your hands on your knees for support or bring them out front as a counterbalance. Drive your heels down and focus on extending your hips forward to stand up rather than pushing your head towards the sky. When you do this, you're gonna focus on using all the muscles of your core and your hips, which is gonna make standing up feel so much more comfortable and so much easier. Now, we understand that not all chairs are the same height. You might be at a friend's house, hanging out with your grandkids, and might have different heights of chairs that you need to figure out how to stand up from. So I wanted to show you how to do it on 3 different heights of chairs to make sure you have everything you need to stand up from chairs pain-free again. And remember that every time you sit down and stand up is another opportunity to practice doing this with good form. And when we move our bodies better, we feel better in our bodies. So to start out with, it's really good to start by practicing this in a chair that is higher than your average chair, meaning typically the crease of your hip is about 6 to 3 inches higher than the top of your knee. This will help you do this with good form without requiring as much strength and flexibility. So just like before, take a wide stance, push the knees out, bring the belly button between the thighs, drive the heels down, and use the hands on the knees or out front for support, and then focus on extending the hips forward as you stand up from a chair. And a special tip for you, it's also important to reverse that motion on the way down, starting by pushing the butt back, keeping the weight on the heels, pushing the knees out, and coming back down into that chair the same way you just stood up. Now, if you're able to do this with perfect form in a higher chair position, then you can go to a medium chair position just like this. All the same key points are there. We're gonna take a nice wide stance, push the knees out, we're gonna put the weight on the heels, bring the belly button between the thighs, and either hands on the knees for support or out front as a counterbalance. Big breath in. You're gonna push the heels down and focus on extending the hips forward. And just like before, reversing the motion by pushing the butt back, weight on the heels, knees out, and practicing every single time we sit down in a chair and stand up. Now, if you can do this comfortably, we can start working on even lower surfaces, like this chair right here. And this chair is gonna require more hip flexibility in order to be able to do this with good form. So again, drive the knees out, press the weight into the heels, bring the belly button between the thighs just like this, and we're still gonna squeeze the hips forward to drive us out of that bottom position. And the same thing going down slowly with perfect form. Over time, you can practice on higher surfaces and slowly graduate towards lower and lower surfaces, and you'll be gaining strength and flexibility in your entire lower body, which is gonna help you continue to be able to stand up from a chair pain-free, again, for as long as you need. Because remember, freedom of movement is what we're all about at WeShape. And the longer you can move your body the way you want, well, the better you're gonna feel. Narrow stance. Start with a wide stance, slightly outside of hip width or even wider if it feels more comfortable, and turn your toes out. Knees forward. Push your knees out the entire time. Rounded back. Now forward, bringing your belly between your thighs like this, but make sure you keep a flat back the whole time. Weight on toes. Drive your heels down into the ground before you start to stand up. Head to sky. With your belly between your thighs, your heels pressed down, a wide stance, and your knees pushed out, you can either place your hands on your knees for support or bring them out front as a counterbalance. Drive your heels down and focus on extending your hips forward to stand up rather than pushing your head towards the sky. If you're looking for a workout that was designed to help beginners like you gain strength and flexibility so you could move your body freely throughout your day again, well, that's what we do at WeShape. If you want to learn more, all you got to do is click the link below.